Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey, that felt good, huh? Boy, it's been a long time. That felt good. I don't know what to say. All the pontificators were yapping till the early hours of the morning. Anything that can be said has been said. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Interestingly, of course, our illustrious leader, Donald Trump, tried to disengage from the loser, Roy Moore, in his first tweet of today, in which he said this: "The reason I originally endorsed Luther Strange, and his numbers went up mightily, is that I said Roy Moore would not be able to win the general election." Somehow I don't remember it. And then he says, Roy, the deck was stacked against him. Yeah, right. Nothing that Roy Moore did had anything to do with the outcome of that vote yesterday. So the first thing I thought when it became apparent that Jones had won is that black Americans keep saving our ass. Because if you look at the demographic breakdown of the voting, whites, white women, and white men overwhelmingly voted for the child molesting lunatic. And it was blacks, male and female, coming out in huge numbers for a special election in the winter on a weekday, blah, 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 with no black person to vote for. They came out in overwhelming numbers, higher than their percentage of the population. Was their percentage in the vote. And by the way, can we acknowledge that what was the voter turnout in general? Was it about 20%? Something like that? Stop and think about that. Stop and think about that. You had a special election, literally and figuratively, an election in which a lot was at stake. A lot was at stake. And you had international attention, certainly national attention. You had it was an unfolding story from the accusations of the women and on and on and on and on. And only, 20-some% of registered voters? Really? 38? Really? Well, then, as Emily Litella used to say, never mind. Although still, I'll even do it with 38. That means that the vast majority of people who were eligible to vote didn't bother to leave their houses, didn't bother to cast it. The vast majority didn't vote. It's unbelievable to me. Who are those people? Anyway, so I think it's pretty clear it was blacks saving us yet again. It's amazing that they do it. They do it to save themselves. I mean, he ain't doing it trying to save our white asses. They're doing it. They're doing it because they know they always get the short end of the stick. Self-preservation motivated them more than anything else, but they end up saving us. And what do they get in return? Jesus. Stop and think about it. My God. This country was built in large part on their backs. And yet they come out and vote in greater numbers than the white folks for whom the country was built. The system was built for the white folks. The black people physically built much of it. God dang it. I don't know. I want to thank all the black people. I mean, people keep saying it was black women. Yeah, black women, it was something, 98% vote for Jones. But black men were up there in, I think, 92 or something. And everybody keeps saying black women, as usual, black men just getting... No, it was black voters, and the other demographic that was impressive were young people. Young people, the ones who don't vote, they voted. Again, not as much as they should have, but they voted. So I think the greatest thing that happened last night is that this idea that Steve Bannon was some kind of frigging strategic genius, sort of like Karl Rove used to be considered a incredible genius till he started losing race after race. Well, Bannon's the one who pretty much ran the Moore campaign, I think. He was the biggest guy they had. I suspect he's the one who pulled Trump in toward the end, since they're still buddies and talk all the time. I wonder what this will do to their friendship. If Trump starts to see Bannon as not the most reliable strategist in terms of making the Donald look good. So Bannon's got like a serious 10-egg omelet on his face this morning, which is wonderful. And I also want to give a shout out, a thank you, to one of the more conservative Republican senators in the Congress, a guy who I love to hate, and I think he may have played a bigger role than will ever be known in electing Doug Jones, and that is the other senator from the state of Alabama, Richard Shelby. Richard Shelby is respected and loved by the voters that would have voted for Moore. And that he, on Sunday, said on national television, I didn't vote for him, I wouldn't vote for him, absolutely came down saying he was unacceptable. I think that helped push either people away from the polls that would have voted for Moore, or helped plump up that write-in vote, which also was extremely important in the victory. So if I sound down, it's because I'm just exhausted. I was hooting and hollering on the phone with my mother and brother, and I'm exhausted now. But it's good. I mean, and you know what else? The Republicans got saved a little bit with Jones' election, because now they don't have to deal with Roy Moore coming to D.C. McConnell doesn't have to deal with, do I embrace him for his vote, or do I sick the ethics committee on him? Do we ever find ourselves in a position where our picture is taken with him? Do we welcome? No, they don't have to deal with it now. He would have been a huge liability. And he will continue to be a huge liability even out of the Senate, simply because they went, the RNC, the White House, all of them, McConnell, pretty much, they backed him. So there's that. And no, the biggest shout out maybe, when we're looking at people to thank for this stunning upset, let us not forget the women. The women in the Washington Post article. The women who, as young girls, were treated to the full creepiness of Roy Moore. And they had to be cajoled to come out. But they did. And they maintained their dignity. And they were credible. Totally credible. And if he had won, I would have felt such grief for them, the women. Because can you imagine having the courage to come out in a state they all still live in that incredibly red state, and to accuse this guy, and then to have the voters turn and elect him and say they didn't believe what you said? That would really be crushing. Crushing. And it is true that the people who voted for Moore didn't believe him, or said they didn't. Don't know. But so, yeah, a lot of people to tip my hat to today, and I'm truly just grateful, because, you know, like you, I didn't have a vote. So you watch powerlessly and, prayerfully, if you're inclined. I decided, since it was the first night of Hanukkah last night, and I lit the menorah and the candles, and that Hanukkah is a holiday about a miracle. It's all about a miracle. And so I'm thinking this was a Hanukkah miracle. Actually, thank you, Barbara. This is right. I totally forgot this. Richard Shelby, who I just gave a tip of my hat to, is a very conservative Republican senator from Alabama who said, I wouldn't, you shouldn't either vote for Roy Moore. I mean, one of his own. And Barbara reminds me that the last time, we keep hearing Alabama hasn't elected a Democrat since. The last time Alabama did elect a Democrat senator was 1992. And that senator was Richard Shelby. He was a Democrat at the time that he won. And after a few years, he changed parties. And so this Democratic senator from Alabama became yet another Republican senator from Alabama. And he still holds that title as a Republican senator of Alabama, even though in the first years of his first term in the Senate, he was caucusing with the Democrats because he was one. Henry writes, the most bizarre part of the night was when Moore refused to concede. Did you see it? God is in control here. I mean, he went on this like crazed, as if God, we haven't heard from God. This is not over. God's vote, has God's vote been cast? Apparently not, because I'm his candidate. He started, I'll go back to you, Henry. He started quoting Bible verses and then invited the press to meet with the Alabama Secretary of State, I think, right? Henry also says this is one small baby step at the beginning of a very long marathon that will culminate in the 2018 election. And there is much work to do, which starts with getting the right people into the race in the first place. Well, the next step, and Stephen reminded me of that when I came in, the next step is right here. The next step is the 18th Congressional District of Pennsylvania, another special election. And that is to replace another wonderful Republican, namely Tim Murphy, who turned out to be a classic Republican hypocrite. So that is a red district. It has been gerrymandered into this ridiculous-looking pollywog of a district that I think encompasses parts of 6 different counties. It's ludicrous if you even look at it. And it was drawn that way to get enough Republican votes in to assure Republican victory in that district. And it's worked very well. Very well. So the Democrats, I think, have at least on paper, a strong candidate. I'm blanking on his first name. Connor. That's right, Connor Lamb, who's got a great resume. He's a young guy, and he's not like he's a kind of Democrat that maybe some Republicans could vote for. But the Republicans did not put up a child molester. That's a problem, right? They did put up, however, a very, very, very proudly Trumpian Republican who famously said, at least famously to me, said, "I was Trump before Trump was Trump." So the voters in that district, some of you are in it, you've got now 3 months to organize, to get out in that horribly huge district, to knock on the doors, to do the work. And I would argue that those of us who are not in the district are also more than capable of jumping in and helping as well. Helping monetarily, helping do the grunt work. Let's start getting a string of Democratic wins. We can do it. There was the Virginia race, the governor's race there. There's now Roy Moore's defeat, and Tim Murphy next up. And I don't know if I'm missing anything, but I think those are those are the canary in the coal mine elections prior to 2018. So that's right here, guys. Going to have our work cut out for us. Seriously. That would be a huge upset, too. And as I said, unfortunately, the Republican did not molest children. So don't have that going for us. Dorothea writes, I disagree with you on the black vote. Although the black vote saved Jones last night, the black vote did not come out for Hillary the way they came out for Obama. Well, okay, Dorothy. I mean, they are they supposed to save our asses every time? I'm crediting them because they're forever. Black women nationally voted hugely for Hillary. Hugely for Hillary. White women did not. So I will disagree with your disagreement because I will say, no, we owe black women, black men a heartfelt thank you for the work they have been doing as citizens turning out. I'm sure that Barack Obama's robocall this weekend, it didn't hurt things either. The problem is the white vote. The problem ain't the black vote. There's not a more reliable democratic demographic than the black vote. So to say that they didn't show up enough for Hillary is really, come on. I mean, come on. Barack Obama, of course they came out in bigger numbers. Of course they came out in bigger numbers. Dorothea goes on, the black vote is not always there when we need it. But as last night showed us, it can make a huge difference. It's always made a huge difference, Dorothea. The problem ain't the black vote. It's the white vote. Let's look to our own and give the black voters the respect that they are owed and the thank you that they are owed. And you sort of wonder why they keep doing it. Seriously. What have they gotten in return in this country? They've gotten a lot of brutality, I'll tell you. A lot of inequality, I'll tell you that too. So, no, I'm saying God bless them. Colorado Senator Cory Gardner, this is from NP. Colorado Senator Cory Gardner's response to the Doug Jones win. Quote, I hope Senator-elect Doug Jones will do the right thing and truly represent Alabama by choosing to vote with the Senate Republican majority. What? Wow. What chutzpah. What unbelievable fucking chutzpah. Excuse me. Jesus H. with a dollop of, sour cream on it. I can't even. Oh, my God! What the hell? That's the most I'm sorry. Jeez, NP. You woke me up. I've been sort of like sleepwalking here. Jesus. He said he hopes he'll do the right thing and vote with the Senate Republican majority. Okay. All right. All right, Margaret, I'll share this. Margaret wants us to remember that the Patriots lost this week, and so did more. Whatever. I guess, what are those things you love to hate? I mean, I don't know. What are those things trending in our direction? I don't know. I think the Patriots, having lost, are going to come in here madder than wet hens. I almost wish they hadn't lost last week. They're not inclined to lose 2 in a row, are they? Whatever. Okay, Pennsylvania's 18th congressional district is next up on March 13th. Then there will be another special election in Arizona. And that's to fill the seat. Just still warm seat, just vacated by Trent Franks. Will you have my baby? I'll give you millions. So he's gone, and that seat has to be filled. And that will happen in April. And then you got to fill Conyers' seat. And that will be done on Election Day, so it's not going to be a special election. Also, it is expected that today the Minnesota governor will fill Al Franken's seat. through appointment, and if he doesn't put in this woman who is the Secretary of State, I believe, or Lieutenant Governor, not sure, one of those, of Minnesota, it will be a shock because everybody says that's who he's putting in. But we'll see. So that seat will be filled today. I've been led to believe. What? Madder than wet hens?
What's that mean?
Stephen, you've never heard that phrase? No. Madder than a wet hen. Well, I've never seen a wet hen, but I am going to assume that they don't like being wet. That's all I'm going to assume, because you never heard that phrase, madder than a wet hen. Well, you know what? I'll look it up in my 7-volume regional American speech dictionary, which I have now gotten the complete set. It's unbelievable. Brooke says, Lynn, I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, don't. But last night they mentioned that there are 35 Senate seats up for re-election. That's huge, actually, in 2018. That's huge. That's more than a third of the Senate. And what's scary is that 26 of those 35 seats are now held by Democrats. So just holding on to those seats is a huge job, since some of those seats are in really very red states. I'm thinking of, who's the crew cut guy from, it's all those big square states out in the West. Tester, Senator John Tester, and he's Montana, I believe. Heidi Camp or something. There's the one, right? And she's up. And where's the other Democrat in a red state?
There's Montana, Indiana.
Indiana?
Yeah.
Has a Democrat?
I think his name's Donnelly.
Have no idea.
Claire McCaskill's up in Missouri.
Oh, Claire McCaskill's up in Missouri. That's scary, because Missouri has become exceedingly red. So just holding on to those is we won't hold all of them. There's no way, I don't think. My guess is won't hold them. So it's going to be very, very tough. Getting the House back will be maybe easier, amazingly. The task is easier for the Republicans. Yeah, there's no doubt about that, Brooke. I read something that the USA Today editors said in an op-ed today. It's just scathing about Trump. But I'll read you just the one line, which is scathing. A president who would all but call a senator a whore is unfit to clean toilets in Obama's presidential library or to shine George W. Bush's shoes. Jesus. Whoa. Man, usually editorial boards don't write like that. That's something. That's like, wow. Wow. And will somebody please remove from my site the horror of Sarah Huckabee Sanders? I can't, I would like to be left in a room with her. I would. Even though I'm an old woman, I would kill her with my bare hands. I swear. What a vile human being. When asked by, why am I blanking on her name? The black woman reporter. April Ryan. Thank you. Young, supple brain. Dried up old brain. April Ryan asking, so what exactly did the president mean when he said that Senator Gillibrand would do just about anything? She'd do anything to get money from me. What did he mean if he didn't mean to suggest sexual favors? And Huckabee Sanders looked. Her face screws up into this, like, she said, "You would think that only if your mind was in the gutter." No, Sarah, you would think that if you read it. Who didn't think it? Who didn't think? What did he mean? What did he mean if he didn't mean that? Okay, and I also want to throw some cold water a little bit on you, speaking of the Senate, and speaking of this extraordinary win in Alabama. Doug Jones is filling the seat vacated by the Keebler elf, now the Attorney General of the United States, Jefferson Beauregard Sessions. And as such, he only has 3 years. He was not elected yesterday to a full Senate term. He was elected to fill the remainder of Jefferson Beauregard Sessions' term, which is 3 years. So in 3 years, Doug Jones is going to have to run as an incumbent to hold that seat for the Democrats. And I think the odds of him holding the seat are not great, because there is no redder state than Alabama. And this time, even the idiots who run the Republican Party there will realize that they need to put up a guy who's not been known to molest children. It's not a high bar, so the odds are they'll come up with somebody who, in fact, will beat Doug Jones in 3 years. That's just that's my little bit of reality I'm throwing in here. I would be, if we were stunned last night with Doug Jones' victory, I'll tell you what, I will be doubly stunned if in 3 years he is reelected. And we have a call. Hi, caller.
Yes, good morning, Lynn.
Hi.
Yeah, good morning. Hey, Lynn, Mrs. Moore gave your tribe a shout-out yesterday.
Oh, yeah, I know. I was so proud.
It's ripped with, she just loves you guys.
I know. Well, she loves, she wants us to help, it's attorneys and, accountants. The Jews are good at that money,
I mean, it just came out, it like dripped. If you didn't pick that up, it came out like you were a different species. Like, I got one of them over here, right over here. Look, come over here.
She said,
come on.
oh, she saw the Jew in the back, and she said, okay, and before he looked like he was leaving, right? And before he leaves, people say we don't like those Jews.
I got one right here. Come on, bro.
I got one.
It's
a
a
Jew.
real one.
Yeah, look at it. It doesn't have horns. You believe that? I don't know why. This Jew's
Look, he
dehorned.
even got the yarmulke on.
He's got those funny little things on the sides of it. I don't know. It's a Jew. You can tell. Look at that nose.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, oh, my God, indeed.
Well, in Alabama last night, it was one statistic. They said Donald Trump was tied. 50% liked him and 50%, or about 48.
It was 48-48, which is amazingly low.
Yeah, I mean, like...
Wow. But that's
so
low.
Half the people like him.
Yeah, they do.
Well, he's rooting Donald Trump. So I got to go, Lynn. I'll tell you one thing. Did you ever see the movie Blazing Saddles? I'm sure you have.
Yeah,
Blazing Saddles, you've seen it. It was just on TV again. You know what? That movie gets funnier as it gets older. It's like a fine bottle of wine. I'm a big drinker, but it ages. It would never get made. I looked at the year of it. It's it's amazing.
When was it? What is the
It's
year?
just crazy.
What is the year?
I think
80, 70 something?
or
72?
I think it was 70 something.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm not sure of the year, but it never. I mean, it's crazy, Lynn. It's sanitarized our whole country to the point where it's the United States. We're rootin' tootin' cowboys. Here we come. That's all I have to say,
Rootin'
Lynn.
tootin'
Have a good
racist
day.
cowboys. Yeah. Thank you. You too.
Yes.
Bye.
All right. See ya.
Bye. Bye. Jeez. Yeah. That was funny. Man. Jonathan writes, the Republican Party, is it possible to get the type on here bigger? I don't think so.
I think so.
You do?
Yeah.
Well, someday let's try to do that because I don't need reading glasses, but I'm not necessarily great. And it's so small that you see whenever I'm reading one of these, I have to bring it closer. It's out here. Unlike a lot of old ladies, I can read small print, even right up. I don't do this. I don't do that. I do this. Anyway, here's what Jonathan says. The Republican Party is bound to respond to the black vote making the difference in the election last night. The way I see it, they have two choices. One, they could rethink the party and its policies and try. I'm waving at a very nice disc jockey. Rethink the party and its policies and try to broaden it to be more inclusive and attractive to people of color. Well, I'm glad you've added what you've added here, Jonathan, because I was about to say, have you lost your fucking mind? But Jonathan says, I don't think there's a snowball's chance of that happening. Right. No. Or two, they could step up their voter suppression, indeedy, and gerrymandering schemes. That's the road they like to travel, and that's the only reason they have the power they have. This is the time for heightened vigilance in every county, in every state, for the GOP's shifty shenanigans, because they'll sure be trying to keep the minority vote down. Yes, indeedy. Are you aware that there is a trial going on right now in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in a federal court there about the gerrymandered districts in the state of Pennsylvania? And are you aware that I believe next week another trial about the gerrymander in Pennsylvania will get underway, and that will be a state trial. So we've got some, and it's happening. It is now, the state one?
Yeah. In Harrisburg.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm a week off. Okay, so they're both happening. And the data, the evidence of gerrymandering, political gerrymandering, is very, very strong. I cannot believe that we're not going to see at least one win coming out of. I'm not sure about the judges. I don't know who it is, but out of either the federal or state court, I sure as hell hope. Laura writes, have you noticed how tired and depressed looking Sarah appears to be? No, she looks like, well, you know what? She looks like somebody who has sold her soul. It's sort of like looking at a picture of the portrait of Dorian Gray. Dorian Gray. Is that right? Yeah, it sounded wrong. You can see her, right, just turning into this, contorted. She looks... I was struck by her face yesterday. I was just staring at her expressions. She's in a constant state of defensive, angry, and she's having to spew lie after outrageous lie. No, that is one ugly, and I'm not talking in the usual, one ugly human being. She's a nasty human being. I'm going to use one of Trump's words. She looks, Laura says, like a woman who wants to quit but doesn't know how. I don't know. You know, if she doesn't know how, you'll walk in and say, I quit. And no, she's thrown in. You know, you talk about special places in hell. Well, she's definitely got a one-way ticket. And I don't know how the reporters tolerate her. I wish they'd be more aggressive toward her and not take her shit. When she said what she said to April Ryan, I wish April Ryan, who just did that, would have taken her on. But they're fearful of losing access. Why would you fear losing access to the liars? What are they're not feeding you anything of any import. They're asking you to carry their disinformation and propaganda while they insult you. I don't know how the White House press corps gets up in the morning. It's being suggested that all Jews email Moore's wife some happy Hanukkah wishes? No, I'm not going to. What a vile, 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 vile human being. Okay. Speaking of the gerrymander stuff, State Supreme Court is here. That's what Harrisburg. It's a state case at the Supreme Court.
The state Supreme Court.
State Supreme Court, right?
Yeah.
Shit, that's good. Okay, since the State Supreme Court, something unbelievable happened in the last election when not quite the last, second to last, 2 elections ago, never mind, when we elected 3 Democrats to the Supreme Court. So that's good. Where's that gerrymander crap I have? It's beyond belief. So the Republicans in Harrisburg resisted countless efforts on the part of the folks who were suing the state in federal court. They fought turning over documents that were used in behind closed doors with Republicans figuring out how to draw these district lines, and they tried unsuccessfully to keep all of the data they used secret. But the federal court said, sorry, guys, and ordered Mike Turzai, the Speaker of the House, and Joe Scarnati, the Senate, over there in the Senate, President Pro Tem, to turn them over. And that trial began, I think, this week as well. They both are this week. It's weird. Or even the week before. I don't know. And the data, when you look at it, shows and appears to confirm the widespread suspicion that Republicans intentionally, well, that's what the case is about, intentionally drew the map to disenfranchise minorities and urban voters and Democrats, of course. Because the thing, I mean, when you hear talk about gerrymandering, everybody always points to Pennsylvania as one of the most horrific examples of it. Since it was after the 2010 census, and the Republicans are in charge in Harrisburg, and so they got together like the three witches at the beginning of Macbeth and brewed up this toxic, poisonous map that would ensure that they would have more Republican representation in not only the state house and state senate, but also in our congressional delegation. And since they did their brilliant little gerrymander in 2011, 13 of the 18 congressional seats that Pennsylvania has in the House of Representatives have gone to Republicans. That's how brilliant their gerrymander was. 13 of 18 seats are held, by Republicans, even though it is generally acknowledged that the state is split evenly between Democrats and Republicans. So what one would expect to see is 9 congressional seats held by Republicans, 9 held by Democrats. But that's not what we get. Excuse me. It's the remedy that'll be most interesting coming out of this. I mean, if the court finds that this is absolutely an illegally, unconstitutionally drawn gerrymander, they've got to either institute another system where a neutral body draws the districts. Seems clear that's what should happen. But we'll see. Boy, Republicans, they played dirty. They played dirty. Kristen writes, the term for Sarah Huckabee Sanders' look is resting bitch face. No, it's worse than that. And if you stop and think about it, resting bitch face is such a sexist thing. It stems from women always being told to smile. Be pleasant. Smile. You have such a lovely smile. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard that. And so when your face is just at rest, it can be mistaken for, are you depressed? Are you angry? Are you sad? Are you sick? Are you what? And so women's just normal faces, like this, face at rest, is called a resting bitch face. No, Sarah Huckabee Sanders is not that. It is a contorted face. A resting face is a face in which no muscles are contracted. When you smile, muscles get contracted. I'm aware of contracting ones up here to raise my mouth and my eyes squint. And when your face is at rest, there shouldn't be that kind of contraction in the face. It's restful. Sarah Huckabee Sanders' face, when she's in these press conferences, is a constant contraction. You've got the Urban Dictionary has this, the definition of resting bitch face. Thank you for this. A person, usually a girl, always a girl, and not a woman. So women are devalued right there. We're made into children. A person, usually a girl, who naturally looks mean when her face is expressionless without meaning to. No. It's just another way of making women and girls feel like they don't measure up. like there's something wrong with them. Because women and girls are supposed to be pleasant, pleasing. Ginny writes, it wasn't all that long ago we were saying the same things about Spicer that we're now saying about Sanders. Kellyanne Conway falls into the same category. Are these people who really believe, do they really believe in Trump's mission, or are they just doing a job? They've sold their souls. If they don't believe, if they believe it, they're reprehensible. If they don't believe it and are doing it just for the, the power and the prestige, they've sold their souls. Jenny says, I've often wondered if these simply master debaters who could successfully argue any side of any argument, I don't know. It didn't make sense to me. Or do you have to believe in what you are saying to be successful as a press secretary? It would help. I don't know. There are people, I was asked a lot a long time ago when I did talk radio, do you really believe what you say, or are you just, you're just playing a part? And I was always astonished by that. Because, if I were playing a part, I'm a hell of an actress. Really. But I have to tell you, there are people, and they're not on the left. There are people who do right-wing talk because that's where the money is. That's all talk is now, right-wing talk. There are people who do it, who espouse things that they really don't believe in because, well, it's a great job. I know that's true. And I find that reprehensible. It is more reprehensible than if you really believed it. If you ask me. So. And did you see that lovely abortion bill that was passed overwhelmingly in Harrisburg? It becomes just like we're the most gerrymandered state because Republicans have us by the neck and other body parts. We now have, if it survives Governor Wolf's veto, we now have the most restrictive abortion law. Wolf will veto it, and they need 2/3 in both houses to override. And while they do control the House and Senate, they're a little shy of 2/3. Not by much. And if Democrats keep sleeping through elections and thinking state elections don't work, they'll get there up to 2/3. Or Democrats won't come out and reelect Tom Wolf, and they'll let the Republicans grab the governorship, making us as red a state as Alabama, totally under the control, so that this bill would be signed immediately by the Republican governor. I cannot tell you how high the stakes are. Because for Democrats to get any control in Harrisburg, it's going to take a long slog, years of working. Getting these districts ungerrymandered would be a start. There was a great success because of the ACLU of fighting the Republican effort to totally suppress the vote through their noxious voter registration bill, which was found unconstitutional. But if we do not reelect Governor Wolf, you can kiss this state goodbye. Maybe I would. Jose Kristen says, okay. She's the one who sent me the resting bitch face thing. She says, yeah, now that you bring it up, the term is quite sexist. It's totally sexist. What did I call? Last night I was with friends and I called myself a harridan. I used the term harridan. And it was clear that nobody knew what the word meant. And I said, that's one of the words that my brother would use for me. And so I learned it because he called me that name. And what harridan is simply one synonym of, I suspect, thousands that depict a strident, screaming woman. I mean, think of all of them. We could probably spend the hour doing nothing but coming up with negative words that are aimed only at women. We could come up with adjectives too. And we could not do a similar list for aimed at men. They don't exist because those words that exist in such numbers are the result of a totally sexist culture and society for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And so our language reflects the power of men and the fact that women are under constant criticism if they do not hew to a very, very narrow standard, which I always think comes down to simply pleasant, helpful, quiet. So if a woman is a strong woman, has a strong voice, my God, there are so many words for her. Harridan is just one. And I think that pretty much does it for me. It was pointed out, by the way, that when there was a special election to fill the Senate seat of Teddy Kennedy upon his death, that was another one that freaked everybody out because that has been a Democratic seat forever. And a Republican won it. Remember? His name was Scott Brown. He won it. And do you know that at the time the Congress was getting ready to vote on the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and the Mitch McConnell of the time was actually a Democrat, you'll recall, named Harry Reid. And Harry Reid said, we will hold the vote until the new senator from Massachusetts is seated so that Massachusetts will have full representation in this most important vote. He did that so a Republican could take a seat. I can assure you, Mitch McConnell ain't holding any vote on this scummy tax bill of his, waiting until the Democrat Doug Jones takes his seat. Oh, no. Oh, no. And here again, Democrats behaving honorably, Republicans not knowing, not having a clue how to behave honorably. It's just not in their nature. All right, well, enjoy the wondrous feeling of victory, and do not for a second get complacent. we're in deep shit. Seriously. Seriously. Okay, that's it from me. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.